Oh, oh, hey. I didn't know you were watching. I was just getting some dirt off my shirt. I'm gonna be really honest because one thing I think people are doing wrong is when their friends ask them for feedback, they just lie and they say it's awesome when they actually think it's not. I don't really do that. When my producer friends ask me for feedback, I just tell them what I think about a song, which is the entire purpose of feedback. Here we got the submissions you guys sent. Your voice sounds a little bit far away. It almost sounds like you're singing from here. I don't know if you recorded quite far from the mic or if you like it distant, but I always try to imagine when I close my eyes and in my own music, I want the vocal to feel like it's right in front of me, like in my face. That's how I like it. So I don't know. I think the vocal could be a little bit louder and more clear. I think the drums could sound either more real or less real. Right now, they're kind of in this weird in between, in my personal opinion. I think the voice needs a little bit of work. I wanted you to be mine. Approach it slowly. Definitely more compression. The voice is too far in the background, needs to be in the front. Maybe a little bit more autotune. If you're using autotune, maybe try adding a second layer of autotune. That sometimes helps. The fat synth in clarity.
Two outside now.
Do you mean the lead synth? If you mean the lead synth, it was, I was browsing through presets and I found something I liked and then I tweaked it. That's how I always do it. I love presets. It saves me tons of time. I'm not good at like coding sound design from scratch. So I like to go through presets and then I find something that's in the range of what I like and then I tweak it from there. The fact that you use presets moons all the sound design purists. Also want your opinion on them. I don't give a at all, dude. You can use a preset or not. I'm a musician. I'm not a sound designer. Obviously, part of that is my job, but I'm a musician. Whatever makes me make the best song. I don't care about using presets. I don't have like an ego problem. It's just about making good music, honestly. Who cares? If your music is just sound design, if there's no harmonic elements to it and it's literally just noises, yeah, then making your noise is probably important. But I don't care about that. I make music, harmonic, melody, and chords and stuff like that, you know? So for me, I don't care about being a purist or anything. I just want to make music. I don't have to prove myself to anyone, you know what I mean? I find people who are making music to prove themselves to other people is kind of silly. Okay, honest feedback. I think the song sounds like it was a little outdated. It sounds like it, you know, if this came out 6 years ago, I would have said, wow, this is actually really fresh sounding. I feel like there's too much of that in the world to do now. I think your inspiration was probably, you know, Avicii, who was the greatest at that. To me, an amazing example of nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the song, but I also won't remember it after the stream. I like it. It's good, but it doesn't blow me away by any means. When I choose to play a song of this kind live, it's got to be visual for me. It's got to be somehow different so that that I can imagine a light show to it and stuff like that. When people ask what they can do when they're up and coming and how they, you know, how to help them start their career by making stuff that's different. But if you just do the same thing everybody else does but different, what the f is the point to listen to that? There's already a million that did the same thing. But if you do something unique, like that thing that slaps me on the left cheek and then something that slaps me on the right thing is like, oh, and you have my attention, you know? Try to be yourself, try to be different. Don't follow other people. Don't listen to what people say. When people say bullshit, just don't even worry about it. Do you always sidechain your bass? Yeah. Sometimes, like a real bass, I can just cut the lows and not sidechain it. But I would say 90% of bass is sidechained. I actually kind of like the beginning. The beginning's kind of cool. Got a little bit of an Oliver vibe. Your goal is for this bass that it's really supposed to like compete with the attention of the kick, fill tons of space. A good thing to do in situations like that, if you want more attack, is take any transient you like, a kick, a snap, a snare, doesn't matter what, and layer that with the rhythm of your bass, and then make it really short so that you only hear a tiny fraction of the attack of that sample. It doesn't even really matter what it is. I usually just use the same kick I use in the song, and then I do that. And then instead of compressing the bass to death, trying to get a little bit of a transient out, you just add only that transient onto that bass. And that way you're going to have a lot more attack in those like when you listen to, I don't know if Oliver does anything like that, but generally Oliver has really tight and punchy attacks. And if you don't have them by default because of the patch you use, an easy way to do that is to just add a simple snap, kick, snare, make it super short, so you only get a little bit of the transient out, and layer that with it, and you just mix that in as much as you need until you have the attack desired, and then you cue it depending on how you want it. Really cool. I like the chords. Mix-wise, I think that you may have a lot of compression, and that might be the reason why on your master, but the snare doesn't slap my d. The snare needs to be more... Maybe you could try and sidechain. I don't know how you sidechain your track, but maybe you can sidechain a little bit on top of the snare, not just the kick. A counterexample would be when you listen to a Skrillex song. To my knowledge, when a Skrillex snare happens, the rest ducks away. So you really have the space for it. And sometimes it's as little as making your bass only go up to the snare if it decays, if there's some sort of reverb on it, and just cutting that out. And sometimes it will stick out more. Okay. We'll do a little test with everybody. We'll do a little educational moment. I'm going to play this again at full volume. And you will tell me yes or no. The question is, does this snare drum slap your It appears like the snare drum does not slap the majority of my chat's. While that is what we are trying to achieve. The snare, to me, I think is trying to be a little bit of like a Jackie vibe, which I don't know if this is really the right type of spot for it. If you want to use like a snare, like a weird snare, you don't really want to have a kick behind it, because the kick will mask the majority of the little bit of body that your snare will have. So you really want to separate your kick and your snares if you use like a snare that sounds like something along those lines. Here, if I'm not mistaken, you have the kick on top of the snare, which makes it really hard. So you got all your if this is your spectrum of frequencies, your kick is right here. This part. So your snare only has a tiny bit over here. If you put your kick over it and it masks the majority of it, you don't really get to hear that snare. So I think a different type of snare drum would be, personally, in my opinion, better for this kind of song. Kick needs a lot more attack. Snare feels really short. There's a trick you can do. If you feel like you ever want a longer snare, you can pick a long-ish snare clap situation, and then it's gonna feel weird, or even a noise. It's gonna feel weird because it's so long and weird on top of the kick, and then you put something like an LFO tool on top where you sidechain it really hard, and it makes it sound like it's really compressed, and it, like, as soon as the kick goes away, it sucks the snare back in. Something like that you could have tried here. Yeah, my label doesn't have any publishing rights to my music. Who has publishing rights over your music? Well, myself and everybody I wrote songs with, depending on how songs came together, either 50-50 or usually we tend to just split by the amount of people involved in a song. It's so hard to tell who's responsible for what if multiple people worked on the same thing.
Where do you see Letuche?
It's usually easier to just split it by the amount of people.
Wait, he typed Lattice. I thought you were like...
Favorite plugin? Well, Serum. Are you talking about a synth or like effect plugin? Serum is, you can get any sound down with Serum you ever want in your life. Sausage Fattener. Sausage Fattener is good, but it's very specific. You need you need to want to make your sausage louder. It's very one-sided, but it's really good for what it does. It makes things loud and limits them. Other than that, I think Serum is an incredible plugin if you want. If you want a VST that can literally get you any sound possible. You can even make drums with Serum. I use Gladiator a lot. I think Gladiator has incredible sounds. The high end in Gladiator is incredible, in my opinion. Like all my Clarity synths and on Spectrum synths, the big leads and chord synths are all from Gladiator. Silent is amazing. I've used Silent exclusively for the longest time. I honestly think that's one of the best tips I can give people. If you want to get good at producing music, you should start by learning an instrument. It will help you so much. You will waste way less time because you don't have to guess what note you have to play, because you will know. It is really helpful. You can play things that you don't have to program, and they will sound way more real. The main thing to remember is there's no right and wrong in music. When people say that you have, like, I remember when I made Clarity, I had Steve Duda come by my studio and I showed him my mastering chain at the time. And he explained to me why everything I was doing was wrong. And he knows way more than I do, and I 100% trust him. And I was doing a lot of clipping into, I used to use the Waves broadband EQ on my master, and then I would put an L2 on afterwards. And I would low cut a little bit, just like a very low cut. I was doing a lot of stupid things, but he explained it to me, but in the end of the day, I was like, I get that it's technically not right, but I like it. I like how my music sounds, and I like how I...
Are you certain that they're...
I like that I'm different,
yeah,
you know?
Sova was going beat.
Which I produce with mastering on, but when I bounce stems out, you have to turn your mastering off. Otherwise,
of course,
they're gonna get double processed, right?
Dude, that's not...
There's rarely that I meet people in music that I have a very similar taste to. So generally, I hate collabing with other producers because it's always a compromise, and it's always also a matter of preference. Like, it's not like one thing is better than the other in music. It's just whatever you prefer over the other. Like, some producer thinks that the snare should be one way, and I might think the snare should be the other way, and then it's always a compromise. And I don't really, you know, it just usually is friction. I don't like that. But I love working with Gray. We have very similar taste, and we share a lot of the same samples. I want to make what I genuinely feel and what feels real to me and what I'm excited about, right? Otherwise, I'm selling out because I'm making what people want me to do. Remember that music is special in the moment. Clarity was incredible in the moment. If I made Clarity today, it would not have the same impact that it had in the moment when I made it, when I really felt it. That's the reason I don't just go back and make music like I used to, because it's just not what I'm feeling. I want to make what I genuinely feel and what feels real to me and what I'm excited about. Right? Otherwise, I'm selling out because I'm making what people want me to do. So oftentimes, being a sellout is actually the exact opposite of what people qualify as a sellout, because selling out is making what other people want you to make. Anyway, I just will always want to make what feels real to me and what I'm excited about. And I remember when I made Stay, it felt so special to me because I was not used to making music in like 100 BPM range. It was super different for me. And that made the song great. Like, I was sitting in the back of my room and having goosebumps listening back because it was new to me and it was super special. And that's maybe the advantage of having, you know, being where I am in my career, is that I can just pretty much do whatever I think is right and not have to worry about it. But that's just how I choose to live my life. I don't want to always chase everyone and everything. like some people chase algorithms literally for a living. Like they will see what the algorithm does today, and then they will adjust their whatever they do for a living to feed this algorithm, which feeds this insane machine even more and pushes it even more to this direction that is obnoxious. So I just don't want to live like that. Like I don't want to be living chasing something, right? I want to do what I feel is right and what feels good to my heart, and that goes for music, that goes for shows, that goes for everything. Yeah, it's hard, but that's why I'm slow, you know. That's why I take my time, because I don't release music that I'm not inspired by. If I'm loving a song, then I'm gonna release it.